In the first lesson of this training kit on Maya and ZBrush integration, we'll go ahead and get started by taking the image planes for this monster and then getting these set up in Photoshop, so that way we have some sort of an actual reference on which to build this model. So before we jump over to Maya, I want to take just 1 minute to take a look at these image planes within Photoshop. Now if you take a look at the front and the side views within Photoshop and were to actually overlay those, you can see that we've tried to do a pretty good job of getting these image planes to line up in the front and the side view. So you can see things like the top of the head line up pretty well, the bottoms of the chin line up pretty well. Same thing with the lips and the gums, they pretty much line up. The tips of the horns, pretty much everything on this monster lines up in the front and the side view. So because these image planes were drawn to line up at the exact same size, we want to make sure that whenever we import these image planes into Maya, that they come in at the exact same size. So that's going to be very important. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump back over to Maya with a fresh scene. And what you want to be able to do to make sure that these come in at the exact same size is to make absolutely sure that you do not zoom in the front or the side view. Because what will happen is these image planes will come in and fill up whatever space is currently being viewed. So if you zoom in or out, there's a pretty good possibility that these image planes are not going to come in at the exact same size. So if you do accidentally move one of these views, just go ahead and go to View, go to Predefined Bookmarks, and then click on, in this case for the side view, go ahead and load up the right side, and that will snap this back to its original sizing. Same with the front view. Go back to the predefined bookmarks, jump back to the front view, and now we've got these set back up to where we need them. So let's go ahead and get the first image plane set up. I'm going to go ahead and go into the Images folder, and I'll load up this front view of the monster. Okay. I'll go ahead and do the same for the side view, get the image plane loaded up for that one, monster side. Okay, so here's the image planes loaded up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the attributes for these. What we need to do is move these back in the perspective view just so that they're out of the way. So what we can do is take a look at the center for this particular image plane. In this case, we need to move this back along the x-axis. So we have x, y, and z axes, so we can control exactly where this image plane is going to wind up. So let's say maybe about -20. And in this case, we need to push this one -20 in the z-axis. Okay, now to look at this, one thing that you've probably noticed is that the grid does not show up in front of these image planes. Okay, this is a little bug that's been persistent for the last couple of versions of Maya, and it's a relatively easy problem to get around. There are a couple of ways. One thing that we could do is take the image plane itself, go back to its attributes, and what we could do is lower the alpha gain on this just to make this slightly transparent, enough to where you could actually start to see this grid show through. Okay, typically that works pretty well. There are some users of Maya though who have reported that this particular workaround doesn't necessarily work for them. In some cases the alpha gain slider does not have the actual effect that you would expect it to. So if you're working and you find that the alpha slider is not making this transparent to the point where you can see the grid through this image plane, there is one other workaround that we could take advantage of, and that is to actually use a textured plane in lieu of these image planes. So what we can do is create a polygon plane. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and rotate this, let's say 90 degrees. And what I'll do is scale this up to where it's the exact same size as the image plane. So you might need to do a little bit of coercive scaling on this in order to get it to the exact same size. Okay, so here's my image plane. Switch to a shaded view, and what I can do is add a new material to this. Let's say a new Lambert. And now what I can do is texture that Lambert with the exact same texture that's being used for this image plane. Okay, so let me go ahead and add a file to this. Okay, and in this case, I'm going to texture the image plane with that monster front. Okay, so monster front. Okay, and now you can see that plane has the exact same texture as that image plane. Now what's going to make this a little bit different is this plane. If I were to go in and let's just take these image planes and remove these so you can see a little bit more clearly what's going to happen. If I take this plane, move this back in the perspective view, what you will see is it will actually take this grid, or this polygon plane, and move it behind your grid. Okay, so that's the second workaround if the alpha gain slider doesn't necessarily work for you. For the duration of this kit, though, I'm actually going to be using the actual image planes that we just removed a few minutes ago. So I'm going to go ahead and get those set back up, and the next lesson we'll go ahead and get started with the actual modeling of this monster.